this video, I'll show you how to update a record item using JavaScript. Now, this is a simple model driven app which I have prepared. Now, it has a list of all the airlines in a tabular form. So there are like 9 airlines I have listed over here. Now, this is a record set. So the record set basically contains some information like the name, supervisor, brand image, email, total staff, total aircraft. So these are like fictitious example. Now here, what I would like is like once this form loads, I want some attribute to be filled automatically. Okay, so take for example the name, or maybe airline description, or maybe an email. Now the use case is like if you are loading a form for the first time, you can pre-fill some information based on some logic. Okay, or maybe if that information is missing, you can just specify those instruction within a set of field, or you can just pre-fill those with the default values. Now, in order to do that, we are gonna use JS to pre-fill those information. Okay, so how do you write a JS? So first thing, I have already created a web resource over here. So I'm gonna write the JS over here and then paste it and then publish it. Now against like the JS will be triggered when the record set is open. So if you open this record set, so one of the record set, then the JS will open and then automatically pre-fill some information like say name or airline description with some values. Okay, so let's do that. Now for that, I will be making use of Visual Studio Code, and here I'm going to write the function. So function, this time we are going to use update record, and we are going to update one of the items. So update record item. Now which item? The item which is currently open. So we need to get the execution context, and then from here we'll start writing the function. Now first thing, make use of form context. So where form context equal to execution context dot get form context. So we're going to get the form context, and then from here let's get the record id. I'll call it as an entity id, you can call it as a record id. So entity id is form context dot data dot entity dot get id. So get id is a function. Now this will give the get id value. Okay, now what is the record id? Record id is basically nothing but this. So this will change depending on which record you load. So this is for Air India. So if you go to any other record, say Air New Zealand, you will see a different record. So this is that record id. Now I want it in this format. Now if you see over here, this format is in lowercase, and also it does not have any curly braces. But the JS output which we get will give you uh, the GUID with appended with curly braces. So we don't want that. So I need to replace the opening and closing curly braces. So I'm gonna replace the opening curly braces with nothing, and I'm gonna replace the closing curly braces with nothing. Now remember, this is an important step. You need to do this, because if you do not, then it will throw an error. So, and then you convert this into lowercase. So to lowercase, and your id will be in a good form to get executed. Okay, now then we make use of entity name. So entity name is basically the logical name of the table. Now in order to get that, I'll just say form context dot data dot entity dot get entity name. This is how I get the entity name. Now once you get all this information, we will make use of a function to call that update record. So xrm, so Xrm.WebApi.updateRecord. So this is just one record we're updating. Now we will pass the entity name first. So let's pass the entity name. Then you pass the entity ID, and then you pass something. Okay, so you need to pass something over here, which is basically the data. You're going to pass the data over here. Now I'll come to that data in a moment. Let me complete this function. So I'll just say then, and I'll put a semicolon, And then from here we will write the function success, pass the result object, and then display the fields which we want to display, like what all things we have changed. So I'll just say console.log, and I'll just say record updated. And what have we updated? So we have updated maybe something, we have just updated some value. Okay, so result dot say maybe the name. If we update the name, we'll just say gcop underscore name, and then yeah, and then just put semicolon. If you have any error, just make sure that you capture those errors. Alert, and maybe I can use alert. Let me use console.log for a moment. Semicolon. Control X, Control X. Yep. Now here we need to fill something, right? So what are we doing in this exercise? What we are doing is, like, when this page loads, I want the name to be something else. Like, I first get this name, or maybe I just put some blank value, or maybe I put some value over here. Okay. Now usually people will do that for a description field, like if the description is missing, then you will fill some pre-filled value. But in for just for this example, I'm gonna just put some random value over here. Okay. Now, in order to get this column, the column name, I will make use of level up tool, go to logical names, and then here you will see the column name is gcop underscore name. So I'll just copy this name to your logical names, go to the code, and here I will paste that value. Okay, the value of that column, gcop underscore name. Now, what we are passing over here is we are going to pass a data, the record set, what we want to update. Okay, so we'll make use of a variable called as data, and I'll just call it as where data equal to, and then here I will put like, I'll put it in a curly braces because it's a data. Now here in the curly braces, I need to specify what are you going to change. So maybe I'm going to change the name. Okay, so I'll just copy this, and I'll say gcop underscore name, and I will make use of the string. Okay, so some string. Now you can put anything depending on the logic. You can put multiple column names just by putting comma and something, and then you can pass the whole data set. Just for the sake of this example, I'm not going to do all these things. Okay, so I'll just put one of the value. Okay, so it's some string. So what will happen when the form loads? The name will be automatically populated with some string. Okay. Now see, this is useful when you are using a new form, but I'm demonstrating this on an edit form. Like, this is like the record has already existed. Now you can do that in the new form, but I'm just showing you, this is how you can see that in the edit form. Now, in JS, you can also check whether the form is a new form or edit form. I've already covered that in one of the video. You can go ahead and check that in my playlist of JS. So this is the code. So we are updating the name with some string. Okay, and then we are passing this over here. So what we have done, we have taken the entity name, we have formatted the entity name, we have taken the entity ID, we have formatted it, we have taken the entity name, and then we have passed the entity name, we have passed the entity ID, and we have passed the data to be updated. Now the data to be updated can be multiple. I've just used one, and then I will be able to see that in the console.log. Now, once you're done with this, let me just save this. Let me copy this, and if your code is correct, you should see the output. Let me go to the web resource, paste the code. Let me see what the function name is. So the function name is update record item. I need to hook that with the form. So this is a form. I'll add an event handler, update record item, pass execution context as first parameter. I've already connected the library over here. Done, save and publish. And once it is published, what should happen when I load any of the record, this will be changed with that text, the text which we have written. Okay, so that's the goal. Ideally, I told you, like, you will be using it if the form is new, and then you want to pre-fill some information based on some logic or condition or business rule, you can do that. But in my case, I've just made use of update form. Let's do a hard refresh. Let's see whether the publish is done. Yeah, publish is done. Clear the console. And if I go into one of the record, so let me do a hard refresh. Yep. Yes. So when I do the hard refresh, as you see, this is now replaced with some string over here, right? Now, why it has come as some string? Because we have written, like in the code, that we are passing this data set. Okay. Now, this data set is this data basically will be updating the record. So any item you open, it will replace it with some string. Now, if you go into any other record, so let me go into, say, one of this record over here, say Air New Zealand over here. Okay, now the moment I open it, it will replace it with some string. Now this is loaded. Now if I go back, you will see that value is changed to some string. If I go to American Airlines, it runs in the backend, go back, and then that is gone to some string. So this is how you basically use that uh, record set to update the value. So you see here some string, you'll see here some string, you'll see here some string. The moment you open the record, it will uh, change that value into some string. So if I go over here, and as you see, most of the records have already been changed now. So this is how you basically use update a record item to update a single record with whatever data you want. Now the data is not restricted just to one column, it can be multiple columns, and then you pass that as a data set, and based on the execution, that record will be updated. As I mentioned to you, this is mostly used in the new form. If you want to pre-fill some information like an email address, or put some pre-filled description, or put some instruction to an end user, this can be very handy. So that's it, folks. Thanks for watching.